Alrighty, welcome back everyone to our Red Dead Redemption 2 Every Horse series. This is the first of the draft horses, the Red Chestnut Suffolk Punch. I am super excited to be moving on to the draft horses, and so I'm excited to be doing this video, but like I do at the start of every video, I just want to go over the stats of the Suffolk Punches really quick. So their base stats are 3 health, 4 stamina, 3 speed, and 2 acceleration. And then at max bonding, they are 6 health, 7 stamina, 6 speed, and 4 acceleration. And unlike the Tennessee Walkers, there is no unique variant of the Suffolk Punch. There is this one and then one other one that I believe is just called the Sorrel Suffolk Punch. And so we don't have to worry about, any differing stats based on a different coat. So I chose this area. I'll get into why I chose this area in just a minute, but I chose this time of night because I don't know what it is about this horse, and I know it doesn't really look like anything like Bill from the campaign's horse at all, but it just kind of reminds me of that vibe of Bill, kind of like a darker character, kind of, I guess, a bad character. So kind of, I guess, the nighttime and in this area, I just think looks amazing with this horse, especially in the moonlight right now. And like I mentioned in the previous video, I actually did a little bit of research on this horse. That's something that I want to include in the videos going forward, as I want to get a little bit of knowledge, even if it's just like some simple facts off of Wikipedia. I want to share a little bit about the horse, just so that, because I feel like it helps me in the role-playing aspect of the game to kind of know a little bit more about the horse. Even though you ride the horses the same, you do the same missions, like all that stuff is the same. It just helps you, I feel like, connect with the horse a little bit better if you kind of know where it comes from. But before I do that, there is something that I have kind of forgotten with this series is, all these horses have their own stats, and they differ a little bit. But something that I haven't covered at all in the series that I've realized is the handling of the horses. I've talked about how they handled, on like my own opinion of their handling, but I haven't talked specifically about the mechanics of handling in the game. So in Red Dead, there's 4 different handling styles. There is standard, which, looking on like the kind of the guide for the game, it says that standard is often the most common, featuring average speed and stamina cores. And then the next type of handling is race, and race means the horse is faster but can get worn out quicker. And then there's heavy, which is slow, steady, trustworthy, and that's what it says about the heavy horses. And then the last handling style is elite, and it says elite class gives you high stamina core with medium speed. So I believe with all of the riding horses that we have done thus far, I believe that they were all just standard handling. They fit that description pretty well. Average speed and stamina cores, just kind of an average horse all around. The only one that may have been different was the last riding horse we did, which was the Flaxen Roan Tennessee Walker. Because that one cost gold, it maybe had elite handling, but I really doubt it. I think it was still just average with slightly better stats due to the gold cost. Yeah, so this is actually the first horse that has had the heavy handling, and I want to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But like I mentioned, I want to kind of go over some history of the Suffolk Punches, because I feel like it's interesting. So this is all just from me, quickly looking over like the Wikipedia page and kind of getting an idea of the horse. So it originates in England. An interesting fact about it is, like I said, it originates in English, but I'm going to just read this straight off of Wikipedia. So the Suffolk Punch registry is the oldest English breed society. The first known mention of the Suffolk Punch is in William Camden's Britannia, published in 1586, in which he describes a working horse on the eastern counties of England that is easily recognizable as the Suffolk Punch. This description makes them the oldest breed of horse that is recognizable in the same form today. So I think there's obviously horses that are older than this horse, but it's the same sort of, like, I guess, purebred breed that is like in that they have like records of, which I think is super interesting. So just a summary of what I read, the Suffolk Punch, or also sometimes referred to as the Suffolk Sorrel, because all of them are this sort of red chestnut, or like the next one will be sort of a sorrel, like brown color. Similar to sort of like the buckskin Tennessee Walker, but maybe a little bit darker and more red tones in it. They're drought horses. They're, they were bred and raised as working horses. And I believe that they still are, in England on the countryside on farms and stuff like that. But kind of a more traditional thing that people do with them is they are actually used in like polling competitions. So a lot of the images on Wikipedia and that I found online showed these horses hooked up to sleds in teams of 2, doing like short polling contests. And something I did mess around with a little bit is in a lot of those pictures, their hair is cut either cut super short or it's braided and tied up. So their tail would be in a braid and then kind of tied up towards the top of its back to keep it out of kind of the sled and the ropes and the equipment that is being pulled behind it. Something I did notice from looking at the images online is this horse does not do them justice on how big they are. I watched a video of kind of like this equestrian sort of YouTube page of a girl just kind of riding one for the first time, and it looked similar to this size, but the ones that you see in the polling competitions are massive. They are so big. I would, in Red Dead terms, I would say that it's probably the size of a Shire, where, when your character stands next to a Shire horse, it's just dwarfed by it. This one is a big horse, don't get me wrong. It's definitely a lot bigger than the riding horses, but it's nowhere near the size of the ones that you see like online on the Wikipedia page for them. So yeah, that's just a little bit of history about the horse, kind of give you an idea of what this horse was and is used for. Another thing about them is they're actually endangered currently, which I think is interesting because they are used in those competitions. So it kind of seems like they're bred and used for certain competitions. So it doesn't make sense to me why they would be endangered if they're used in competitions like that, because I feel like people would be in charge of breeding them. But I can only imagine that competitions like that are sort of dying out and going away, and so I guess it kind of does make sense that is happening. All right, so my thoughts on this horse, and the first thing I wanted to talk about was the handling. I feel like more than any other horse, I have crashed this horse so much. I don't know if it's because I haven't compensated for the fact that it has heavy handling and I've just kind of ridden it the same as I ride every other horses, just mashing A as hard as I can, flying in between trees and not giving it, not compensating in any way, shape, or form for it, and that just leads to me crashing. I do believe that is the case, but I also believe that it is due to the fact that it has heavy handling. It is harder to steer. It's not as responsive when you steer it. Another thing that I did notice about the horse was it actually has the same stamina as a lot of the riding horses that we did, like the Tennessee Walker, the Kentucky Saddler, those horses. But I did notice, I don't know if stamina drain is different from horse to horse, but I did feel like with this horse, I was running out, not necessarily running out to the point where the horse was about to buck me off, but I noticed that my stamina bar got lower than it really has with any other horse. For the first little bit of using this horse, maybe I think until I reached max bonding, I used a different saddle on it. I think I used the McKinley saddle just because I thought it looked better on this horse. And then I switched back to the Nacogdoches saddle. So it wasn't that I was using a different saddle and that's why it was that way. I was assuming it was like that at the beginning, but then even when I did switch to the Nacogdoches saddle, I felt like it still didn't. It still felt like its stamina was disappearing a lot quicker than I was used to. As far as speed goes, I actually think it's pretty interesting that it has the speed that it does, which at max bonding it is 6, because that actually ties. Let's see. Yeah, so its speed ties the Morgan, it beats the Kentucky Saddler, and it beats the Tennessee Walker. So it is. It's interesting to me that a draft horse, this big horse that's used for pulling competitions and stuff like that, has the same speed as a regular riding horse. As far as combat goes, its health is decent. It is it's no different than the riding horses. It has, at max bonding, it has 6 health, which is the same as the Kentucky Saddler and Tennessee Walker, and just 1 more than the Morgan. In combat, it does perfectly fine. I don't feel like it bucks me off any more than it would. They don't buck you off during combat, but I don't feel like it gets agitated and moves during combat to a point where it's noticeable or it's annoying. I'm actually going to head up here. I don't do this that often because it's kind of distracting and I kind of have to stop commentating for a second while I do it, but I'm actually going to go up there and do that camp protection thing just to kind of show you. But before I do that, I want to go over how it handled predators. This was something that I found interesting. Again, take all this with a grain of salt. I don't know if it's just a placebo effect type thing, but something I did notice about this horse when it came to predators was it seemed to act brave, where it would stand its ground, it wouldn't be making a lot of noise, I would be calming it, doing all the things that I should, thinking that it was doing just fine, and then I would suddenly get bucked off. Whereas what happened with the riding horses a lot of the times, like the Morgan, the Kentucky Saddler, Tennessee Walker, I felt like with those horses, I could tell that it was getting agitated, I wasn't able to calm it down in time, and then it would buck me off. But this horse seemed like it would be doing just fine, and then it would suddenly just lose it when it was acting calm, and it would buck me off, and I'd be left there on the ground. So as far as predators go, it seems like it would do good, but it doesn't really. So I'm going to kind of show you how it performs in combat. I'll stay on my horse during this whole thing. So I don't know why it's acting so weird right now. I am not doing anything. I'm not moving it at all. So let me calm it down and get it to stand still and see if it stops doing what it was doing. I'm gonna die. Oh, crap. Alright. Anyway. Yeah, I don't really know what was going on there. With it kind of just walking sideways, I wasn't doing that. I don't know if that was just some weird bug in the game that was causing that to happen, but yeah, I definitely wasn't doing that. But let's go finish this really quick, and then I'll kind of give my closing thoughts as I ride towards Valentine to go to the stable. Oh, I actually lost, but sweet. So yeah. I mean, if I didn't suck, as you see, it does okay during combat. It has enough health to do just fine, and I do feel like in combat it is a great horse. There were numerous times actually with this horse, because it is a heavier, bigger horse. I felt kind of that vibe of like, I don't know, like cavalry back in the day that would charge into combat. So there were numerous times with this horse where I intentionally charged into combat, right into the gunfire, and ran over people just to kind of test out the horse, and it did perfectly fine. I felt, even though its health is the same as the other horses, I just felt more confident with this horse in combat just because it is so much bigger and bulkier. But yeah. So this has been the Red Chestnut Suffolk Punch. I hope the history part wasn't a little bit annoying or weird. I want to add that with each of the breeds, and I'll try to at least add like one interesting fact, per horse. So even though I'm doing one more Suffolk Punch, I'll try to find, something else interesting about them to share in that video. But yeah, thank you guys all so much for watching. I hope you guys are liking the series. I appreciate all the likes, comments. I'm a small enough YouTube page at this point that I can still respond to everybody's comments. So if you want to leave a comment, and I'll respond. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. This has been, like I said, the Red Chestnut Suffolk Punch, and I will catch you all in the next video.